Saturday morning, the Experts program coming to you here on Power Talk Radio, 1460 and 101 FM. We kick things off with Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group. Good morning, Luis.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Doing okay. So the big talk, of course, is coronavirus and what we can do to protect ourselves from it. More and more businesses are looking at having their employees not come into the office, just work at home on a laptop or computer and be productive that way. And that's what I've been doing the last few days. I've been working from my home studio. I'm able to get almost everything done here at home that I would do in the office. It's a little slower, but you know what? What I've saved in travel time and also being safe from picking up anything, it's worth a little extra trouble.
Yeah, and we've gotten a number of calls from our clients. We took the proactive step when this all started to let our clients know that if they wanted their employees to work from home, that we would extend our coverage of our services to those folks too, which we generally don't do. It usually just includes the offices, but we didn't want us to be an impediment to making that decision. And that kind of opened the floodgates. And so now we have a number of our clients that are saying, yeah, we want to set up things so that our employees can do everything they need to do from their houses and then decide whether that's going to happen or not. And a number of cases, it's a little complicated because of the applicants that they're using. But generally, what we're trying to impress upon our clients, and I would want to impress upon anybody that's planning on having their employees work from home, is you got to make sure that you don't compromise security to expedite access. And there's safe and secure ways to make things like working from home possible.
Right.
And there's taking shortcuts and creating opportunities for cyber criminals who know that this is going to open the floodgates to attacks. Because now you're spreading people instead of behind one firewall. Now they're going to be at multiple locations. So it'll be easier to gain access if you can compromise one of those PCs that a user is using at his or her house.
Now, Luis, if you have employees that are working at home, how do you make sure that they're cyber secure? For example, if somebody has a wireless modem router and they're using that with their computer, is that a secure connection before they tunnel in VPN into your server to do their work remotely?
That's a great question. One of the things that we do when we set up our VPN tunnels, the virtual private networks that allow people to connect securely to a firewall or to an office, is we set up the system so that it blocks any traffic coming from the internet. The concept called split tunnels that allows the user to connect to the office while at the same time having access to their local internet connection for browsing and things like that. And we shut that down to prevent any sort of possible contamination. We deploy software on those PCs at their houses to make sure that they're not compromised and that they're not going to be a point of weakness in the chain. And in general, we impress upon them, check about home security. We check their Wi-Fi to make sure that it's not open, that it actually has a passcode that they have to enter in order to connect up to the Wi-Fi. We make sure that if they're using a PC, that it's not the family PC, right? That it's not the kids are also using that same PC and everybody else, because opens it up to some significant weakness in security posture. And so we have this checklist that we go through when we start deploying this. We typically recommend that if an employee is going to work from home for an extended period of time, that the business provide them a PC or laptop, or that they take their PC from the office home with them and set it up there so that it is something that's dedicated to just business and not something that's shared with the family.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Here's the other thing I want to ask you about as well. If someone, let's say, for example, I just purchased I had AT&T install a new wireless router and modem for me. And I understand that wireless modem and router has its own firewalls in it, and it's got some sort of security in it. Is what comes with that good enough, or is there anything I need to add to that device to fortify it ever more?
Well, the one thing you would want to make sure is if the device is something that you purchased over the last, I'd say, couple of years, you're in pretty good shape. A lot of the vulnerabilities that plagued older home firewalls have been identified and patched. But if you have an older firewall and most people that have home systems don't really bother updating the firmware or checking to see if there's any sort of vulnerabilities. So we want to check those to make sure that they're up to date and it's not not a known potential vulnerability or weakness in the system, and then recommend that they upgrade those.
Okay.
But we also want to make sure that the PC's firewall, even the home PCs, are working correctly, and that's why we deploy some tools to make sure that happens, and then that they're up to date with their patches on those PCs and their AV. We're not anything less than Windows 7 fully patched. This is a crisis. Normally, we wouldn't do that because Windows 7 is end of support, but we also have to be cognizant that this is a whole new world that we're in, and we need to be agile and nimble and serve our clients' needs. So we're doing everything we can to keep them as safe as possible, but by the same token, we aren't going to compromise completely on our security.
Now, one of the other things that is pretty secure, as I understand it, you and I have talked about this before, if you provide your employees with a wireless hotspot to use for internet service, those tend to have the latest upgraded firmware and firewalls because they're constantly upgraded by the vendor that you're leasing them from. So what you might want to do, if you don't necessarily trust the infrastructure that an employee has at their home and you want to be sure, you might think about getting a supply of hotspots. And if someone's going to be working from home, say, when you connect to the internet, use this 4G hotspot. Don't use your home internet service. This is the way we want you to connect.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And for clients who either have hotspots or can use their phones as hotspots, it probably makes sense for the business to offer to offset the cost of the data usage just to add another layer of security. And right now, all the carriers, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, they're being very good in terms of being flexible and allowing things and not taking advantage of the situation to kind of jack up prices or make people victims of something that's not in their control. Mm-hmm. So take advantage of that and take that to your advantage.
Lewis, we have about 60 seconds left. Anything else you'd like to add before we close things up?
Well, this will be a very interesting test of broadband with all these people working from home. We're used to people working, using the internet after they come home from work. But with everybody working from home, Comcast and AT&T have assured us that things are going to be in good shape. And Comcast is even offering free 60 days of broadband. If you don't have it now, you might want to consider taking them up on that offer.
Well, that's a way of getting you hooked.
Yep, exactly.
All righty. And folks, just be careful because right now, when we're in this crisis, the bad guys are out there looking to take advantage of vulnerabilities in the system, your own emotional vulnerabilities. They are looking to score big because they always do. Anytime there's an event where there's a lot of human misery attached to it, you've always got the hackers that are out there doubling down on it to see how much they can pilfer. So, you want safety first, and, you want to be safe as far as your health, and you want to be safe when you're telecommuting to work anytime using the net.
Absolutely. Good advice.
Lewis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, joining us here on Power Talk today. Reach them at alvareztg.com on the web, at alvareztg. That is the Twitter handle. Lewis, the toll-free number for the I-Team.
Give us a call at 866-78-I-Team. That's 866-784-8326.